It's time to talk some Breeders' Cup Friday. 5 Breeders' Cup races on Friday, and we will dive into the daily racing form, past performances. You can get your DRF Breeders' Cup past performances. Packages are now available. Shop.drf.com, and we will take a look at the past performances. But those packages, they offer more than that. Different tools for whatever you need. If you want help with the clocker, with the workouts, they have clocker reports available for you, different sets of past performances, betting strategies. Shop.drf.com. It's all of the help you're going to need for the Breeders' Cup. Now, we are just one day away from the Breeders' Cup. One day. You can actually purchase your clocker reports individually or as part of the VIP package there. Let's talk Breeders' Cup Friday. Now, normally I've been able to do the big show with individual guests all throughout the Breeders' Cup races. This year I wasn't able to do so, mainly because I was out at Santa Anita doing a lot of work this year since it was local to me. I took advantage. I was out from Saturday morning all the way through about 5 o'clock in the morning each morning. Got to see most of the horses on the track, work out, did a little work for DRF in a couple places. So it was a lot of fun. And now let's see if we can make some money on Friday. So race number 5, I just feel like this juvenile turf sprint is going to have so much speed in it. Right from the inside, you have Crimson Advocate and No Name Mets, who both are going to want to be forwardly placed, and they're fast and they're stablemates and they're right next door to each other. They should be flying in here. Big Evs, naturally super, super fast. And then you just kind of go through the rest of the field. Slider, we could also see forwardly placed. I had to look for a horse who I think was going to be coming off the pace. And the one who I think is interesting is Shards. And I want to take a look at this horse's last effort behind Committee of One and a Miss Waves.
Girl, the last
this was at Keeneland. This was back on October the 8th. Shards is the number 1 in this replay that we're going to be watching here. And Shards was sitting like 8th in this race of 10. And you can see he was down towards the rail. So already kind of at the mercy of what happens. I can't get a little bit closer, not necessarily shuffled back, but just kind of has to sit in that spot right there. But he's going to end up having no room in here at all. And he's going to have to start shifting around. So right here, just can't go anywhere with no traffic in front of him. But this horse continues to move nicely into contention. Now the 2 is a Missed Waves who's sitting right in front of him. And you'll notice that a Miss Wave starts looking for room. And here comes Shards looking for room. Shards is trying to find the seam. And he has nowhere to go there. So he's going to try to follow the 2. And just about here, he has to alter course. And that might be the difference in winning this race. He just has to shift off a little bit. If he was able to just sit a little closer or get a more smooth trip, that could have been the difference between winning and losing for him. And in a race like this, where it should set up pretty well, he's not on the rail this time after drawing down inside the last 2. I think Shards will come running. I also like a Miss Waves who was right there with him. And Committee of One is kind of hard not to use those 3 that you feel like should get the trip. But as far as price, I think of those, I have to go to Shards in there at anything around 10-1. And then what do you do with the Weaver runners? I prefer No Name Mets of them, even though maybe his resume isn't quite as gaudy as, Crimson Advocates could be on paper. But yeah, I prefer and just think No Name Mets might be a little bit quicker. So I would throw him in of the speeds, but I'm going to definitely use Shards, looking for some off the pace horses in here. The 9 to Miss Waves, the 2 will include. The 1 Crimson Advocate would be the unders of the speeds. And, Committee of One, already mentioned that one. So I did like that Keeneland race. And I just think the way those horses got the setup that day, this race could set up very similar. Let's move to the 6th race. It's the Juvenile fillies. Tamara will be a very short price in here. I don't really have any knocks on her. There's been some talk of her not necessarily looking as great this week in some of her works in the morning or some of her training in the morning. But for me, I think if she runs close to what we've seen from her, she's going to be tough. Candy, there's no knocks with her either. I mean, I really thought both of her efforts were good, But if I was playing this race in exotics, pick 4s, 5s, stuff like that, I'm going to look at probably 2 in here with Tamara. And the other I would use would be the number 12, just FYI. I really thought that effort was pretty good, and it's a little low on speed figures. And because she won on a sloppy track last time, sometimes horses like that will get dismissed on a fast track, but she broke her maiden on a fast track. I'm not concerned about surface whatsoever. I think it's a good sign that she's here. She took a little step forward, and I think she can take another big step forward in this spot with the speed figures in situations like this too. If we were to take like Tamara out of this race, or just from a speed figure standpoint, Tamara and maybe Candied, Brightwork, there are 3 horses that have run some pretty good speed figures. Everyone else is in the mix. Brightwork, we have reason to believe, may not want to go this long. And it's not as if just FYI is all that far behind. Just FYI, 12 and 7 for me. And then whatever you want to do with the 1, Candied. Probably one of my less exciting opinions, because I do think Tamara is very nice and very honest. And I hate being someone who doesn't want to give you all that much. But just FYI will be in the mix for me with Tamara. Let's get to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf. So horses on my radar in this one. We'll start with the 10, Austere. It's a good effort at Kentucky. And this horse has won back-to-back, both races. This horse is a horse who has some kind of tactical speed that we saw from her last time, because they were going pretty quick, and she sat close to that. She was about 4 lengths off early and then just going to move nicely into it. I think she's very nice. The horse to beat is probably next door to her. Honestly, she feels pretty, for DeVoe, was so impressive at Woodbine in winning that race. My top 2, though, will be Austere, the 10, and the 3, Buchu, who just flew late. This horse was still like last at the top of the lane in a field of 11 at Keeneland. Came flying to win easy and does not have to be that far back. 10 and 3 all over for me. The 6, Porta Fortuna, will be in the mix, and the 9. So it's like I'll use the 2 Euros, 6-9 and 10-3 all over. The 11, I think, is the measuring stick they'll have to beat. What about the horses who are outside, both the 12 and the 13? Like, can Dreamfriar sneak away from this field? Fantastic betting race. I'll key around 3 and 10, my top 2. I'll use them with the Euros, the 6 and the 9 there as that sort of top group. I have no knocks on She Feels Pretty. She's going to make her way onto some tickets for me too. And yeah, one of the more challenging races to handicap throughout the Breeders' Cup. Then we get to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, race number 8. I like the Wine Steward a little bit in here. I thought his effort in the Breeders' Futurity was very good. He was his first start going long. He was tracking inside. He was traveling really well. He moved off the rail. He got past, but then he dug in and he battled back. And now he can build just a little bit off that and take one more step forward to be right there with Locked. I wasn't that high on Prince of Monaco. Timberlake's fine. I'm okay with him. Flocked's fine. I'm okay with him. I started going through a lot of the contenders in here. Even Muth, I'm not that high on Muth. And I really do feel like the Wine Steward is very honest. The Wine Steward can sit a great trip from the rail. And he's proven himself from the inside before. He's ran really well and showed us that he can save some ground and run a big one. 8-1 on the Wine Steward. I'll use along with Timberlake and Locked probably as the players. Because the way that Fierceness ran last time, where he was off slow and he wasn't able to get close, it was on a sloppy track, he will be aggressive and likely pushing the pace again. They'll want to be fast with him. But General Partners, very quick. And you have to imagine maybe is it going to be Wind Me Up? Is it going to be Monaco? Is it going to be Muth? Muth sat nicely, but 1 or 2 of the Bafferts is going to be going. I'm looking for the off the pace horses. I like the Wine Steward, saving all the ground in here. Let's get to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf to finish up. And I'm going to end with Endlessly. Endlessly is 3 for 3. These races in Southern California have been very good. This horse has been pretty handy in a race where I don't think they're going to be flying early on. That's why I will be using the 5 also. My boy Prince in here, just in case. This is a horse who's fast enough to maybe just sneak away from this field. My boy Prince is a horse who I saw up at Woodbine. We can get to him in just a second. As we kind of run ourselves through the field, there's Endlessly, who is 3 for 3. And Endlessly was about 4 or 5 lengths off in his most recent race, and he waited. He got a nice opening. He angled out. He just feels like a horse who can sit close, who can adapt, who's versatile. Endlessly. The 5, my boy Prince. There he is. Quick horse. The 6, the Bomb. Stay Hot. Again, if I'm thinking there's not that much speed in this race, a horse like Stay Hot can be sitting forwardly placed, can be close up. Others to look at in here. I mean, the 2's probably the one they'll all have to beat. A little bit of a wild card, but as far as the company that this guy has faced, a couple times behind Van Dijk, both of those efforts were good thirds, group stakes winner. Now, all of that has been sprinting. He's going to stretch out to 6 furlongs. So it's completely different for a horse you're going to have to take a pretty short price on. That's what you'll have to kind of talk yourself into here. I'm going 9, 5, all over. And then the one who I hadn't mentioned is the 8, Unquestionable. He was close up in his last start. He ended up taking back to about 4th. He was just behind the leaders, and he moved nicely to the lead. He looked like a winner. He was just second best that day. That was going 7 furlongs, so he's another who has to prove it at a mile. But I'll use 9, 5, and 8 as my top tier of horses in here. The 14, Carson's Run, I want to at least mention. He would be one that is just going to have a terrible post, but he was extremely impressive at Woodbine, and he's done very little wrong in his 3 races. Breeders' Cup Friday, best of luck. Now, if you want some help with Breeders' Cup Saturday, you can take a look on my social media. We have a video posted with Barry Spears, who helps me out with all of the Breeders' Cup Saturday races. If you're listening on the podcast, Breeders' Cup Saturday races will immediately follow this, so just stay tuned. And for all of your wagering needs, head to drf.com, shop.drf.com for those Breeders' Cup past performances. Good luck on Friday. Hope everyone makes a ton.